So Robin, I don't know if you can hear it, but we've got a jackhammer outside.
We literally have a jackhammer while we're trying to make a video.
Sometimes you have a jackhammer outside.
Yeah.
So let's talk about sacrifice.
Okay.
Last week we talked about the way that we acknowledged that sacrifice isn't really a word that we like to use.
That's right. Yeah. We've got that feedback.
Yeah. And this week we're actually going to talk about that and acknowledge it. We're going to retell the story of Shel Silverstein's The Giving Tree. Not my favorite story.
Yeah.
And that
I mean, the tree ends up as a stump because of this selfish little boy, and because the tree has absolutely no self-differentiation. Yeah.
That,
To be clear.
and that pops up, I think, in a lot of the stuff we read, we see in modern culture.
Yeah.
Just the other day I was reading a book, what's it called again? It's on these peculiar children, right? And there's this character, her name is Mother Dust. And they all have like superpowers, right? But her superpower is very weird in that the good part is that she can heal anyone, right? Which is great because they're getting into lots of scrapes.
Good. Yeah.
But the way she heals people is by actually like grating her own body and blows the dust on people. It's the grossest thing ever.
I feel like you're always sharing stories from these books, and they're a little gross.
I know.
Just gonna put that out there. Yeah.
No, it's disgusting.
But there's truth there, right? Right. That there's models again and again throughout our experience in our daily lives where we're asked to sacrifice some core part of our identity in order to be accepted into a culture, into an environment, into a community. And I mean, often we're talking about women in both of these examples, right? And there's a lot of tropes of women being asked to make great sacrifices. But there's also true for men and for other identity groups of people who are asked to sacrifice core pieces of who they are or their culture in order to be able to be allowed entrance or permitted, in some cases, just to simply live.
Yeah. And I think right now we're in a transformation point. I feel like the stories of the Giving Tree and the Peculiars, those are stories of the last century, and we're really trying to transform those stories. And is there a different way to sacrifice that doesn't involve cutting ourselves off from our identities?
And I do think that I experience a fair amount of anxiety from folks every day right now, especially with everything that's happening politically.
That's right.
We're heading, very quickly toward an election as well as an impeachment. And just the pace kind of that we live in this part of New Jersey and in New York. But I think one of the practices that can be both grounding in that kind of anxiety storm and also can help us know how to react out of the demand to sacrifice ourselves is really to have a deep practice of grounding, whether that's cultivating compassion like we did with the loving kindness meditation earlier this week, or whether that is being in the context of a community that is seeking to push back against this monoculture, dominant culture model of being, and instead is looking to be, in the words of Paula Cole-Jones, a community of communities, where we can shine out of the strength of our deepest selves and be self-differentiated enough not to demand someone else sacrifice who they are. And that, for me, is where the abundance is.
Yes, and it reminds me of the practice that we do in all of our small groups of connection. So when we're in a mindfulness practice where we're acknowledging our own truth, we look for that connection in another person's story. And we honor those connections.
Exactly.
And it really builds that community.
Well, I honor my connection with you and your reading choices this day. And hope that you'll come connect with our stories here at Beacon soon.
See you.
Take care.